Good evening, everyone. Here is Bruce Newman from Bruce Newman's Academy. We are now entering the episode number 2 of the Open Doors. I have today the pleasure and the advantage to receive our guest, Shannon Murphy, which is an anxiety expert. He is a psychoanalyst, and through the years, he has been assisting the worst, the most difficult cases of anxiety. Good evening, Shan.
Good evening, Bruce. Thank you for the introduction.
Could you tell us how much it was fierce to meet all those people in suffering through all those years?
I feel quite blessed to help people. I feel that it's a blessing to actually be able to help people heal their anxiety and heal their fears. So I don't see it as a distress. I don't see it as anything negative whatsoever, because all my clients that I've actually helped to move on with their life, to actually overcome the fears that they were struggling with, overcome the anxieties that they were struggling with, and to walk out my door and get the texts that I receive on many a time from my clients thanking me for the fact that they're actually able to enjoy their life to the fullest is enough for me. I don't feel any distress from it whatsoever.
Did you ever felt that you had to carry the pain as a burden sometime? Did you ever felt overwhelmed by some of your specific clients?
Yeah, I suppose I would feel overwhelmed. Sometimes they can come with some quite deep traumas. The thing with my style of therapy, where it's just present tense therapy, and I only work with them in the present tense, what they present with and what we actually get into can be quite deep stuff, and some highly traumatic stuff from their childhood and from their life can come up. And yeah, some of the stuff, can be, you wouldn't see it in movies, some of the stuff that might actually come up. But I've learned lots of different techniques in my life about letting go and not hanging on to their stories. And it's all the patterns that I do around the anxiety. It's getting them to stay present, getting myself to stay present. I go for walks, I ground myself. I'm blessed to live by the sea, so I take my shoes and socks off, and I go into the water regardless of what time of the year. And it's just about learning to let it go and learning to actually sit with what's going on for them and what it's triggering in me. So yeah, I have had a lot of traumas come up for clients, but it's the understanding that they're not my traumas to hold on to.
Have you been sometime shocked by some stories that people has been passing through?
Yes. There's a lot of people carrying an awful lot of, we don't actually realize the amount of stuff that people are carrying in their mind, and stuff that they feel that they can't talk to anybody about because it's very personal. So yes, I have been shocked by some of the stuff that has been shared with me.
Of course, you're not allowed to speak about their stories publicly.
Correct, yeah, because that would be
Mm.
breaking the confidentiality.
Mm. We had some previous conversations, and I did understood that even if you're a certified psychologist, you don't only rely yourself upon the Sigmund Freud's teaching, and you try your best to open to different sort of thinkers.
Mm,
We have been speaking about Carl Jung, of course,
mm,
but we have been speaking about Joe Dispenza.
mm.
In which way Joe Dispenza would inspire you throughout your therapies?
Well, I think Joe Dispenza really kind of pushes the boundaries on a lot of things that we would actually talk about. And it's about the stepping over into the body work, actually stepping over to into actually doing that body work, but stepping over into looking at the more spiritual aspect of things, looking at the more energy aspect of things of how to actually get at those traumas. That it's not the normal run of the mill, sitting down, psychoanalyzing and stuff like that. There are other modalities out there that actually can be used to actually help the client. So I like the fact that he actually pushes the boundaries on anything really, like, you know what I mean? Like that, I know of people that have gone to his workshops where they've gone in and there's been shamanic work and stuff like that going on, and there's been lots of healing therapies and stuff like that going on within the workshops, which isn't necessarily what we're taught in college. So I like to look at those sort of things. I like to look at different ways that we can actually help the client to release those traumas, because a lot of these traumas are held in the body, but there's one aspect to actually get to it on a psychological type of way, but the other aspect is to actually learn how to get at it and release it in the physical body. So that's what I really like about the way that Joe Dispenza, Bruce Lipton, they're all doctors and scientists in their own field, but then they're looking at things in a completely different way to the way that the rest of the world looks at things. So trying to actually get at people's anxiety, actually releasing that trauma that's actually in the body from another way, an energy healing or Reiki or something along those lines is really strong.
So then you do understand that all these emotions are as well somehow frequencies. And when dealing with people in trouble and suffering from anxiety, you may feel there's energies which are stuck maybe on the lower body. And how do you manage to not be a sponge? And how do you manage to interfere with them without being affected by this frequency by yourself on your daily practice?
Well, I'm very good at my boundaries. I'm very good at understanding that this is their grief, this is their trauma, and this is what's actually happening within them. So I don't actually absorb it. I don't take it in because it's theirs. It's their own personal journey. It's their own personal trauma. So there's no point in actually bringing that trauma into me. So again, it's what I said. It's staying present with the problem, what's going on for them. But when I'm finished with that client, I can literally move on to either another client or move on to my day by actually leaving that behind me. I do a grounding practice for about 2 to 3 minutes in between clients, and I can actually let go of the traumas that they're actually dealing with and actually leave it with them and actually just move on to the next client or on to whatever is my next part of my day. So it's just understanding within my head that that is their trauma and it is not my trauma to take on, and that is their journey and their journey that they're going through, and it's nothing to do with me. Other than when I'm sitting with them, I'm hearing what they're talking about, I'm helping them with the trauma, or I'm helping them with the anxiety that they're actually struggling with, because the anxiety is a manifestation of more than likely the trauma. And it's actually just, I'm very good at boundaries. I'm very good at leaving it with them and not taking it on for me at all.
Would you suggest to them to settle boundaries as well on their daily life?
Boundaries are one of the key things that we all should have within our life is creating those boundaries with our family, creating those boundaries with our friends, and yeah, just being strong and true to who you are within those boundaries. Able to, so many people struggle with boundaries, and within those boundaries they struggle with things like they don't feel confident enough or strong enough to say something to somebody about how they're feeling because they're worried about what impact that's going to have on them. So then their boundaries become kind of drop down and stuff like that. But for everybody, for me, I have great boundaries on all the different roles that I have in life. And when you create your boundaries, people respect it. People respect you more when you have your boundaries. So, in my opinion, boundaries are one of the key things that us all human beings need to have for everybody, even the strangers on the street. Things that, if you overshare or something like that, you don't have very good boundaries with people. You hear of people who say that they can actually, share with some, they literally tell the person down the street what's going on in their lives and what's happening and all that. That's not good boundaries. Good boundaries are keeping your business to a certain degree your business and only sharing with the people you actually trust. So it's about having either somewhere in the middle, like not rigid boundaries, not porous boundaries, but actually having the healthy boundaries, the boundaries that you can share, you can have that fluidity, but you're actually protecting yourself within that. And I suppose the other big thing with boundaries is the power to say no, the power to actually respect yourself enough to be able to say, no, I'm not going to do that. And one of the interesting things I think about boundaries around, say, yes and no, is that when we say no to someone, most people think they have to explain why they say no. But when you have to say yes to something, you never explain it. So it's very interesting how now I can actually literally say no and I don't explain myself. I don't have to give a reason, to say no.
Would you say that the lack of boundaries is a sickness of our modern civilization?
Yes, definitely. I believe that mobile phones and stuff like that and the social media aspect of things has really made people become oversharing and that they don't understand the boundaries, they don't respect the boundaries. We've stepped into a world where we've now stepped into a world where people's identity. They can't figure out who they are, what's actually going on in their world. The huge amount of fluidity and it's boundaries for a lot of the younger people don't exist. They don't understand it. They just seem to just flow between each other without having that actual strength. That, like, I mean, when I step into a boundary, it's a stepping into my values, my beliefs, what actually I believe in. And when I hold that and hold what I believe in, what's happening with a lot of the younger people coming up now at the moment because of what they're seeing on social media, on TikTok and stuff like that, is they don't know what their values are. They don't know what their beliefs are. And their values and beliefs are dictated on what social media actually says they are. So they might have values and beliefs in something, one topic this week, and next week it could be a completely different topic. So there's no boundaries there because they don't know what they believe in, they don't know what they trust in. So yeah, I agree that boundaries have become quite fickle in the world now.
What would be the danger of too much boundaries? Wouldn't could lead us to a lack of empathy and couldn't lead us to interact too mechanically, perhaps as a corollary, but we wouldn't connect that much to our emotional intelligence.
Well, yeah, I mean, a lot, I can see in a lot of, even in Ireland now, I can see within, say, the roles of, say, teachers and even doctors and stuff like that, how they're sticking very much to what they're taught in college. And there's no kind of fluidity. You were asking me earlier on, like about, my practice, psychoanalysts and stuff like that, that, you're taught to kind of listen to Freud, listen to Jung and all that, but then you can do what I did and maybe listen to a bit of Joe Dispenza or Bruce Lipton or Gabor Mate. So at least there's that fluidity. Whereas we're now getting very rigid with our boundaries, where what they're learning inside in school and what they're coming out is keeping them very, as you said, mechanical. Becoming very much the same. That there is that no fluidity. There's no thinking outside of the box. This is the way to think, and this is the only way to think, and that's causing a huge amount of anxiety within people, an absolute colossal amount of anxiety, because they have to live a very controlled life. And I'm seeing it more and more in the younger clients coming up, where they just believe that this is the one way to actually live their life, and they can't see any other way outside of it. And the problem with that is when you're following, you're stuck in a tunnel, and in that tunnel there's big walls, and you're only going one way. You're heading only in the way of that anxiety, that fear of actually stepping out of that controlled environment, and that's causing a huge amount of anxiety within people.
When we are presenting some boundaries, we always feel that we have to justify ourselves throughout some rational reasons. How how can someone could settle some boundaries without any need to justifying oneself with any kind of rational reasons, but simply by saying that I don't feel it this way emotionally. How can this person could be respected throughout this kind of behavior?
Well, what I always find interesting with boundaries is when you start setting boundaries with other people, they do respect them quite quickly. They do understand quite quickly. But I mean, it's about trusting your gut, it's trusting your feelings and your emotions and actually stepping into that power, because it is quite a big power when you can actually step in and actually hold firm on your boundaries and not create that fluidity within it where, like, I have my values, I have my beliefs, and they're my boundaries, and that's what I step into every day. And I do feel that society is slipping an awful lot away from that. It's slipping away from that belief within themselves, where they all believe the same thing. They all believe whatever TikTok or whatever social media is actually saying. So they're losing that anchoring, like beliefs. An awful lot of stuff that I do work with clients around boundaries and stuff like that is about stepping into your beliefs and your values. I spend a lot of my sessions actually teaching them about their values and what their values are in life, because we're all different, our values. And when you can anchor yourself to your belief and your boundaries and what you believe in and what your values are, when you really anchor yourself into that, you feel quite solid and you feel in the present. Whereas when you don't have anything to anchor yourself to, you're just floating out at sea, and you're just grabbing hold of each different idea or whatever is the more popular idea to hold on to, and then that moves, and you're literally being swept around in the sea with nothing to anchor you to the present tense, and that's why boundaries are so important.
What is the price to pay when you have to fight for your values and boundaries?
The price to pay for me personally can be a loss of friendships, a loss of people understanding exactly what you're trying to say and what you're trying to talk about. And yeah, it can lead to a loss, but I feel, personally speaking, that holding on to your beliefs and holding on to your values is, to me personally, is very important. And I can also vouch for at least a couple of hundred of my clients who understand values and beliefs and understand how, I can see how the impact of them holding on to their values and beliefs can actually impact their families, but how better that they actually feel about themselves. And what it is at the end of the day is how good you feel about yourself. Because at the end of the day, Bruce, it's all about you. The whole world revolves around you. what you want and what you don't want in life is all about you. As I say to all my clients, you're born you die you, and the bit in the middle should be all about you too. So when you're holding on to your boundaries, whatever impact that has on the world, whatever impact that has on other people, um, holding on to your values is more important than that. And holding on to your beliefs of actually, this is what I believe in and this is what I stand for. And for me, it can be quite powerful and it can be very liberating to actually hold on to what you believe in and what you value in. And as I say, clients coming to me might have been for a long time not had any boundaries in their life. And here they are in their 40s or 50s and they're actually stepping into boundaries. And a lot of people don't understand what's going on with them and actually say that they're maybe becoming very cross or very angry or something. But eventually they feel better about themselves. And at the end of the day, you feeling better about yourself is the most important thing.
It let me. It would incline me to sleep to something maybe a bit more mysterious. Uh, upon your opinion, could we settle some boundaries within ourselves towards ourselves?
That is, yeah, you need to have your own boundaries within yourself. Um, yeah, the interesting thing with boundaries within yourself is like the walls that we put up to stop ourselves from actually going into certain areas and stuff like that. And sometimes those boundaries can actually be, you know, because I work with my clients in the present tense, so we don't necessarily have to go back into the traumas in the past. It's okay to have boundaries around your traumas from the past because you falling into the cycle of actually being pulled and dragged with your traumas into the present, into the past is not actually helping you. So you can actually create your boundaries within yourself around past traumas for them not to come up, for them not to keep on surfacing because so many people are caught in that pattern of the past controlling the present. And it's about learning to to let go of those, forgive yourself. And that's creating boundaries within yourself to stop them from actually coming up and controlling and causing a negative impact on you. So yeah, you're right. We can have our own boundaries within ourselves to actually protect ourselves. They're more as a protection mechanism within ourselves.
That's interesting. Settling boundaries towards our past and not letting it control our present. Meanwhile, does one of the danger of this practice could be that we will deny our past and on a devious way being still under influence of it.
Well, denying, like, you know, if if you're letting stuff from the past control you in a negative way, why would you allow that to come up? Why would you allow that to actually control what's actually doing? We look at the past and we see regrets. We see things that we should or should not have done, things that different paths that we should or should not have gone down. And they control decisions that we make in the present because we've made those mistakes in the past. I don't see them as mistakes. I see them as learning moments, learning something. So you look at those, what you see as your mistakes or your traumas, and you say, what could I have done differently? And it's about letting go of those things. And within the boundaries, you can actually control yourself to actually stop yourself from actually, like, what I'm saying is some parts of these traumas, some part of these events, some parts of it is actually quite good. It's okay about letting in some of the good stuff, but the bad stuff that actually controls you, that stops you from doing what you want to do. So many people not only let the past control the present, what they actually do is let the past control the future. So decisions that they made in the past, which are staying in the past, are so if you have something that you made a mistake with in the past where you made a decision to do something and it failed, you throw that into the future and you actually say, well, I'm not doing that again because it failed there. But without the understanding that who you are in the present is a totally different person to who you were back then. So it's about learning to actually see what you should leave in and see what actually should stay in the past where it is. And I mean, most anxieties come from that fear of certain things that went wrong in the past. And you look to the future, you know, how many people that have anxiety do I know of that actually can think of about 100 different scenarios of something that what's going to go wrong in the future. And if they figure out what those 100 things are going wrong, if one of them goes wrong, they now know how to fix it. But in a way, you're manifesting that something like that is actually going to happen. And it's an awful lot of work as well. So it's quite complex, but at the end of the day, when you are in the present and you are on today's date, and it's all about today's date, it's only about what's happening now. And when you notice the past coming in and the negative past coming in to control the present, you let it go. You actually leave it go and let it in the past. Obviously, if the positive stuff is coming in and the stuff where the things that you did right and you're feeling better about yourself, you can let that in. But it's learning what to let in and what to let behind you.
As far as we did delve quite deep, what about the collective boundaries? Collectivity has an, let's say, collective unconscious mind, and settling boundaries which sometimes are impinging us to evolve and fulfill ourselves. How to deal with that?
So you're
Upon your
talking about
opinion,
as human beings together collectively in the field. Is that what you're talking
any
about?
kind of societies is telling his own collective boundaries, and they're not necessarily sane or healthy, at least for you. How to
So
deal with that?
you know, is it? You're saying like as an Irish man, as a collection of Irish people, we all have our own boundaries around certain things and certain beliefs and stuff like that. Is that kind of what you're
If you're
talking about?
thinking about this in this way, why not?
Okay, so um, I suppose I suppose if I think about it as an Irish man and as what has happened in our history and how we become free and stuff like that. And I suppose one of the things about Ireland and being free is that it's only we only gained our freedom 120 years ago. So it's actually quite present. You know what I mean? There's a lot of people who talk about that kind of collective boundary. So yeah, I think that collective boundary can be quite strong. You know, a belief within one narrative or a belief within one thought process is really important. You know,
I,
identify.
I, I may dare to say that this freedom has been gained by denying some external boundaries which have been put under the table and in the territory, isn't it?
Well, yeah, well, on the broader scale, but I suppose I'm talking about more on the human scale,
Mm-hmm.
on what it's like to, as a human being, if you stay away from the whole political aspect of it and stay away from certain ways it is, if you talk about being an Irish man or an Irish woman, but being an Irish person, how important it is that we feel as, and I think it's for most countries, where that kind of collective boundary where you don't let things step over into it, you don't let other cultures come over too much into it, um, where you feel quite strong within it, you feel a unity. You know, I suppose it's like when we play our national anthem, how everybody actually stands up and sings. In Ireland, most people can't speak Irish, but they can sing the national anthem. And they feel that strength behind it, and actually that strength, and this is our uniqueness. This is who we are. Same, I suppose. I follow rugby. I look at the Irish team when they're doing really well. We have that collectiveness and that boundary of I'm an Irishman. I suppose you would have the same being an Italian man. Italian, isn't it?
Oh, I did one in Paris and
Yeah.
partially raised in Vienna.
Okay. Okay. But you'd feel quite attached to your country.
In a matter of fact, I got no idea which is my country.
Oh yeah.
I'm
Okay.
completely schizophrenic.
Okay. So you don't feel attached to any country, so you don't know that kind of collective boundary that one people would have again with another, you know?
I do feel attached to some values.
Okay.
And then I feel solidarity internationally with people which are cherishing the same values.
Hmm. Okay. Well, anyway,
So I'm quite interested when you're speaking about this common collective Irish boundaries.
yeah. Yeah, and I definitely feel it, and from a lot of people I know, we all feel, quite strong behind lots of different things, our flag, and and what it's like to actually be. And as I say, I feel that for a country that was only got its freedom in the last over 100 years, you know, I had we know people who were around when we didn't have our freedom, you know, and I suppose even in my memory, I have the fighting between North and South of Ireland within my memory, so
Mhm.
you know it, like, I mean, it's different for countries who are maybe 300-400 years or more since they got their freedom, so I can definitely feel how important it is to be an Irishman, and I can you can meet up with another Irishman up the country, and you can talk about what it's like to be an Irishman and what it's like to be free, and you have that connection straight away, that boundary, that connection straight away, that it doesn't matter who they are. You know what I mean? It doesn't matter. You know, you have that instant connection, that collectivity that you're talking about there, that it, connection on a bigger scale rather than just on individual people. You know what I mean? You can have two people who might fight about land or something like that, or might fight about something, and then suddenly when they suddenly realize that they're Irish, they're standing shoulder to shoulder and having that kind of collectiveness, that kind of power. That's not in a word, doesn't have to be in word. It's just in feelings, you know. As I say, you can have people who are fighting over something, and suddenly they're going to watch a rugby match or they're going to watch a hurling match, and they're shoulder to shoulder supporting that team, and that bitterness is gone in that collectiveness because we're Irish.
Would you say that this gathering is because of common values or because of common memory?
I think it's common memory. Yeah, I think it's that
Hmm.
memory of it, and it's a collective. You can't put it into words. It's a collective energy. It's a collective energy of being that sovereign aspect of things, to be a sovereign man. And I think that kind of really connects at a layer that goes back probably centuries, you know. And we you don't even know about it, like, but it's just that collectiveness that binds you together, um, without you actually even knowing what binds you together.
The the roots of the Irish culture are Gaelic, isn't it?
Yeah.
As far as I know from my studies of history, um, during the Roman invasions from the antiquity, the Romans did push down, or let's say push up, a large part of the Gaelic people of the west of France, which did migrate to Ireland.
Mm.
And so it was with all the Druids.
Yeah. And
How
I mean,
is your feeling about those ancient roots and all this Celtic mysticism?
Well, it's one thing that I've kind of looked a lot into over the last couple of years. Like, and again, we go back to that collectiveness and that connection back into that aspect of things. How back then, compared to who we are now, they really did know how to work the land and how to actually connect in. And I suppose I look at, some friends of mine who are herbalists, who are, all about the different plants and stuff like that that grow in our land, and one of the things that they talk about is the fact that, our land always gives us the cures for all things, all illnesses and all sicknesses and stuff like that. Stepping back into your roots. They knew an awful lot of knowledge back 300, 400 years ago, the druids and stuff like that, of ways to actually help people. And how connecting back in with that roots, connecting back in with who we were, who Era was. Era was the old Irish name for Ireland. And connecting back in with Era and connecting back in with the roots and that belief in who we are. That, like, I mean, I'm talking about being an Irishman, but I'm also saying that being an Irishman can go back 1,000 years, and how profound it actually feels to you. So yeah, go back. I believe in the Druids. I believe in what they were doing. Like, it might be misconceived within society that they might have been witches or uh, warlocks or something like that. But I mean, what they all they were doing was just actually connecting in with the soil, connecting in with the plants, connecting in with the trees, and actually helping to cure people from what God gave us.
Yeah, of course, the shaman was known to be the masters of plants
Mm,
and the connection with the fundamental element is the earth. Would you say that by being disconnected with this fundamental element, the earth, it leads an old civilization to some form of psychosis and lose their anchored somehow?
completely. I 100% agree with you. We've stepped into a world where we're forgetting about our past. We're forgetting about what things stood for. Slowly but surely, we're just looking at the modern society where, mobile phones, computers, we're just anchoring ourselves to those things. Whereas when you anchor yourself into those values of what things stood for in the past, what modern society is really pushing us away. When we look at modern society, we're not thinking about how many people know that from, the dandelion plant, that you can actually get an awful lot of remedies and an awful lot of help around certain things. No, that knowledge is being lost. That knowledge, where that thirst that we have at the moment of moving forward, getting more technology, stepping into AI, all that sort of stuff is actually putting us forward and not helping us to actually step back. You asked me earlier on about not taking on too much. I ground myself. I'm sitting here at the moment with my shoes and socks off. I ground myself in the ground. How many people of 20 somethings know how important it is to actually have your feet on the ground, have your feet in the earth, actually grounding yourself into the present and grounding yourself into the here and now. It's been so much is being lost as that pull and drag. And I mean, it's not even a pull and a drag. We're moving forward at a pace at the moment with technology that the past is just falling away. It's falling into the distance. It's falling away. There's nothing to connect us to. And it's so important to have something to anchor to. I mean, everything that we're talking about in this session, we're talking about, anxiety and all that. And I mean, anything, and the key to anxiety is to stay in the present. But if you've nothing to anchor yourself into the present, you're just falling forward. You're constantly falling forward, and it's hard at the moment out there to stop yourself from falling forward.
That's so interesting. And unfortunately, it would be the conclusion of this episode, but I would be quite glad to invite you some next time, Sean, because I guess that this topic is only an introduction. There's so
Yeah.
much to say.